President Donald Trump is refuting speculation about his mental state brought up in Michael Wolff's new book, Fire and Fury.
Well, only because I went to the best colleges, or college. I went to I had a situation where I was a very excellent student, came out, made billions and billions of dollars, became one of the top business people, went to television, and for 10 years was a tremendous success, as you probably have heard. Ran for president one time and won. And then I hear this guy that doesn't know me at all. By the way, did not interview me he said he interviewed me for 3 hours in the White House. It didn't exist, okay? It's in his imagination.
Now, in the book, Wolff claims that the president repeats himself many times within short periods of time and appears to suggest the president also struggles with reading. To dive into these claims about the president's mental capacities, let's bring in presidential historian Alan Lieberman and psychiatrist-in-chief at Columbia University Medical Center, Dr. Jeffrey Lieberman. Alan, I want to start with you. The president has said that the media is covering his mental fitness like they did President Reagan's. The Washington Post points out that may not be the best strategy, saying, quote, "The news media did indeed question Reagan's mental health at times, but such questions were at least somewhat validated by the 40th president's Alzheimer's diagnosis in 1994 and his son's claims in 2011 that Reagan displayed symptoms of the disease while in office." So the question to you, Alan, do you agree with this?
I do agree with that, and of course I'm not here to debate psychiatry with the good Dr. Lieberman, but let me say what I find significant about the fact that some of the most eminent psychiatrists in the nation have come out to question Donald Trump's mental health is that they chose this time and this president to break a 50-year-old rule. And this isn't politically motivated. They didn't come out the same way, in the same fashion against other conservative presidents like Reagan or George W. Bush. Now, look, I'm an historian and a political analyst. I've studied carefully Donald Trump's 40-plus years as a businessman and his presidency. And leaving aside psychiatry, I feel it's my obligation to tell you from my observations the way I think this president really is a clear and present danger to our democracy and our national security. From my study, I see a man who cares only about himself, who looks at other people as tools for his glorification, his advancement, and his enrichment. I see a president who not only has been documented to lie repeatedly on a daily basis, but who has shattered reality itself. He has brought us into an Orwellian world of alternative facts, where the president can say with a straight face that he really won the popular vote because somehow 3 to 5 million illegal voters mysteriously appeared to vote for Hillary Clinton, then equally mysteriously disappeared without detection. This is also someone who cannot stand the slightest slight or insult, no matter how small, but who has to lash out and respond. I was appalled by the exchange between Kim and Trump about who has a bigger button. Could we trust Trump in a modern-day version of the Cuban Missile Crisis, or even something lesser to respond with the cool deliberation of a Kennedy? I'm very worried.
I want to turn to Dr. Lieberman. You were shaking your head vigorously over there while Alan was talking, but let me offer you this. There's a Yale psychiatrist, Dr. Bandy Lee, who briefed lawmakers, about a dozen of them, on Capitol Hill last month about the president's mental state. She's the editor of a book titled The Dangerous Case of Donald Trump. That book actually includes testimonials from about 27 psychiatrists and mental health experts trying to assess the president's level of dangerousness. Lee went on to cite certain behaviors of the president, as you just heard from Alan. This book talks about his going back to conspiracy theories, denying things he admitted to before, his being drawn to violent videos. She goes on to say that, quote, "We feel that the rush of tweeting is an indication of his falling apart under stress. Trump is going to get worse and will become uncontainable with the pressures of the presidency." So what do you make of her statement? What do you make of what Alan had to say here?
Well, first of all, bad behavior doesn't necessarily prima facie mean that you're mentally ill. There's a lot of people who are leaders of other countries in the world who behave very, very badly, and if they subjected themselves to a medical evaluation, they probably wouldn't have a diagnosis. Secondly, the authors of the book, including Dr. Lee, are not what I would call eminent psychiatrists. First of all, it's a conglomerate of individuals who are psychiatrists, psychologists, and self-styled therapists. they're not the best of the field in a way. And if the government or the media wanted to avail itself of the highest level of expertise to weigh in on the health of the president, it could be done. But the constitutional mechanism to do it in is the 25th Amendment. To make armchair diagnoses of somebody's behavior is reasonable to form hypotheses or to speculate, but it can't be used as evidence for somebody to be removed from office. Concerns can be expressed, but this can in no way be considered to be a legitimate basis for establishing a medical diagnosis. And let me just say one last thing. The reason why I'm not a Trump supporter, I was on Hillary Clinton's advisory council for health policy, but the reason I'm so concerned is that psychiatry in some ways has suffered from a checkered history. Some bad things have happened earlier times in terms of the way it diagnosed people, homosexuality as pathology, lobotomies for treatment. And it's been used as a political device to suppress dissidents and other people that were undesirable by the government. Witness Soviet Russia and the People's Republic of China. So if we want to get serious about leveling as a reason for the president's limitations, mental stability and a possible illness, it can be done. In 48 hours, all the tests that we would need to say yes or no and get this off the table could be completed definitively.
But, Doc, I have to ask if there's anything that would be observation-based, something outside of a psychiatric examination. Is there anything that people could see in this president that would allow them to make an assessment about his fitness for the job?
Allow you to raise your index of suspicion. Nobody raised this for Barack Obama because observationally there was no reason to. But with President Trump, because of his unconventionality, because of his lifelong, self-important, narcissistic, aggrandizing type of braggadocious behavior, people are commenting on this, and I understand that. It's a basis for it. But it's not a basis for establishing a diagnosis. It would be irresponsible and would be a basis for medical malpractice.
Alan, last question to you. We've just got a few seconds left here. How do these questions about President Trump's mental stability stack up historically? Have any other presidents faced this amount of scrutiny?
Certainly other presidents have faced mental challenges. Retrospectively, we've seen, for example, that President Coolidge suffered from severe depression after the death of his child. But I think it is significant that never before have mental health professionals come out in this kind of way with this kind of dramatic warning about a president.
But they did so in an irresponsible manner. This was not an act of patriotism.
I didn't interrupt you, Dr. Lieberman.
No, I'm sorry.
I didn't interrupt
Professor
you.
Lichtman. I'm sorry.
I didn't interrupt you.
Go ahead.
And I'm not going to engage in bickering like Dr. Lieberman is between who's a great psychiatrist or who's another. All you need is eyes and ears to see what is going on with this president. Just one of scores and dozens of this president's lies and unhinged tweets would have sounded the loudest alarm bells with any other president. We should not allow Donald Trump to diminish our standard, to lower the bar to the point where behavior which should be unacceptable in any other president or any world leader would be acceptable for him. Forget psychiatry. Open your eyes.
I thank you for your insight. We've run out of time here, but thank you both, Alan Lichtman and Dr. Jeffrey Lieberman. We appreciate it.
I like your predictions.
Thanks.
Next up, they are...